There was a time in Hollywood when image wasn't just everything, it was survival, and few people embodied that more than William Desmond Taylor. On the surface, he was exactly what the studios wanted the world to see: charming, well-dressed, articulate, and deeply respected in the film world. He directed over 60 silent films and worked with the biggest stars of the era. Audiences loved him, actors wanted to be around him, and executives trusted him with major productions. But like so many polished surfaces in early Hollywood, Taylor's pristine image was a mask. Behind the camera, his life was complicated, secretive, and filled with contradictions. He'd risen to the very top of the industry, but not without burying pieces of his past. And in February of 1922, that past, or something far darker, caught up with him. Taylor was found dead in his Los Angeles bungalow early one morning. His valet, Henry Peavy, discovered the body sprawled on the living room floor, fully dressed, a single gunshot wound in his back. At first, people thought he died of natural causes. There wasn't any blood visible. A doctor was summoned, then left after declaring it a heart attack. But then someone noticed something strange. Taylor's body had been turned. There was a bullet hole in his back, and suddenly this wasn't a medical emergency, it was a crime scene. Except by then, the crime scene had already been compromised. Before the police ever arrived, studio executives, publicists, and other Hollywood insiders had entered the house, likely tampered with evidence, and started working to control the narrative. Whatever secrets were hidden in that bungalow, they weren't going to be found easily. And then the public learned something that turned everything on its head. William Desmond Taylor wasn't even his real name. He was born William Cunningham Dean Tanner in Ireland and had been living in New York with his wife and daughter when he vanished in 1908. Just disappeared. No note, no explanation. Years later, he resurfaced in California under a completely new identity. He'd abandoned his family, left behind his responsibilities, and rebranded himself in the land of reinvention, Hollywood. He didn't just start over, he climbed to the very top. But this revelation cracked open the pristine image people had of him. What else was he hiding? Who had known his true identity? And did that long-buried secret have something to do with his death? As the police tried to untangle Taylor's life, two names kept popping up: Mabel Normand and Mary Miles Minter. Normand was one of the most successful comedic actresses of the era. She was also known for her heavy partying, her rumored drug use, and her fiery personality. She had spent the evening with Taylor just hours before his murder. According to her, they talked about literature and film, shared some laughs, and she left around 7:45 p.m. But Normand was no stranger to controversy, and her connection to known narcotics dealers made her a person of interest. She wasn't just another actress. She was a woman struggling with addiction in an industry that loved to use people up and spit them out. And being the last known person to see Taylor alive made her an easy target for suspicion. Then there was Mary Miles Minter, a former child star whose career had been carefully crafted by her mother, Charlotte Shelby. Minter was in love with Taylor, and he may have returned her feelings. Love letters from Minter to Taylor were found after his death, some filled with dramatic, obsessive language. But what really drew attention was her mother. Charlotte Shelby was fiercely controlling, protective to the point of being paranoid, and reportedly furious about her daughter's interest in an older man. She had a strong motive, a notoriously short temper, and, according to some sources, owned a rare, caliber pistol, the exact type of gun used to kill Taylor. Things got even weirder when a family servant claimed Shelby had attempted to bribe her into silence. Yet despite all this, the LAPD never arrested her. Instead of a fair investigation, what followed was a circus. The studios were in full damage control mode. MGM didn't want its directors and actresses dragged through the mud. Paramount didn't want the world to see how unstable things had become behind the scenes. So the fixers got involved. Evidence was lost. Testimonies were retracted. The media was flooded with contradictory reports. Headlines changed daily, from jealous lovers to secret gay affairs to drug-fueled revenge plots. But none of it ever led to charges. Not for Normand, not for Minter, not for Shelby, not for anyone. And while public interest in the case exploded, this was one of the first true Hollywood murder scandals. It didn't bring justice. It just brought confusion. And slowly, The momentum behind the investigation faded. Careers were ruined anyway. Mabel Normand's reputation never recovered. Studios distanced themselves from her, and by the time she died of tuberculosis just a few years later, she was broke and mostly forgotten. Mary Miles Minter's career also collapsed. She gave a few tearful interviews, then vanished from the public eye. She lived out the rest of her life in obscurity, refusing to talk about Taylor or the murder ever again. And Charlotte Shelby? She simply walked away. No jail time, no courtroom drama, just silence. Some believe her powerful connections and the studio's desire to keep the story from spiraling protected her. To this day, many still believe she got away with murder. And what about Taylor himself? His legacy became less about his work and more about his mystery. He directed films that helped shape the language of cinema, but now his name was tied forever to an unsolved killing. Some believe he may have been hiding more than just a fake name, possibly secrets about Hollywood's drug culture, underground relationships, or even knowledge of studio corruption. Rumors swirled for decades, but hard facts were few. The truth had been buried under years of spin, cover-ups, and silence. The murder of William Desmond Taylor wasn't just a tragic Hollywood story. It was a warning shot, proof that the industry would do anything to protect itself. It exposed the rot beneath the glamour, the lengths people would go to maintain a facade, and how power worked in the shadows. The studios didn't just control the films, they controlled the narrative. And once they decided that a case should disappear, it did. The LAPD never solved the crime. No one was ever charged, and Taylor's death became one of the most famous cold cases in American history. In the end, it wasn't just a man who died, it was the illusion of innocence. The murder of William Desmond Taylor tore a hole in the story Hollywood had been telling about itself, a story of dreams, beauty, and stardom. What came out instead was something much darker: secrets, lies, and power that killed when threatened. And to this day, nobody's really paid for it.